Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Shiva Rezvan, a member of the Connecticut Psychological Association Public Education Team. In August, the CPA Public Education Team enthusiastically launched the interview series that is called Sharing Our Stories. The goal of the series is to create a deeper connection between psychologists and the community. This is the second episode of the CPA interview series, and I'm so excited to say that today we have Dr. Jan Owens-Lane with us, who is the founder of the CPA Ethnic Diversity Task Force, EDTF. And this year is quite special because it's the 20th anniversary of the EDTF. Congratulations, Dr. Owens-Lane, and welcome to the interview series.
Thank you so very much. I'm so delighted to be here today.
Excellent. So, Dr. Owens, would you please tell us briefly about yourself?
Well, I was born in Winter Haven, Florida, and I spent my earlier life there. And as a teenager, moved to Philadelphia, a big urban center, with my family. I love to read novels, and my favorite author is Nicholas Sparks,
Wow.
who is the infamous author of The Notebook. So now I'm reading his newest book called The Return. My faith is the greatest strength that I have, and I consider myself to be deeply spiritual. So in everything I do, I'm guided by my faith. And I love sports. I have great passion for sports. My family is a sports family. My favorite football team is the Pittsburgh Steelers, Steeler Nation. My husband, his team is Dallas, the Dallas Cowboys, and my son, the New York Giants. So we've always had competition in our home, and it has been outstanding. And of course, I am the winner. I have the most Super Bowl rings, my team. So I'm the reigning champion in my home. I've been in the field of psychology for 25 plus years, and most of that has been spent in private practice.
Excellent. Wow. Lots of, interests and capacities and abilities. So would you please tell us, how did you get into this field?
Well, it's an interesting story even to myself today. As a teenager, I became active in my church, and the realization was that I loved helping people. And I enjoyed interacting and helping and with a community focus. So I knew that that was part of what I needed to do, was to choose a career and choose a path that would help springboard me into helping people. And boy, isn't that broad, helping people. And I thought, how in the world will I come to a decision about what to do? There's so many helping professions. So, but however, I knew I had a calling and a purpose in life to help people. So that was exciting. Once I set out to college, I was not sure. However, I narrowed the path to two professions, social work and psychology. My college education, I chose to go to a HBCU, which is a historical Black college university, which is Wilberforce University in Wilberforce, Ohio. And it has its origins in the AME Church. So I decided that I would have a double major in social work and psychology. I was still very undecided and did not know which path to take. At the end of my journey, and of course, because Wilberforce was not a great match for me, It was out more in the rural area, and I knew then that I had liked a city school. So it took me 3 years to get my bachelor's degree, and I then moved on a decision to pursue social work because I was offered a free ride with my education to get an MSW. So I entered the University of Pittsburgh, Steeler Nation, to pursue my education. And this is when I committed not only to become a social worker, but also to become a Steeler fan. Upon graduating with my MSW, I went back to Philadelphia to live, and I took a job at a rehabilitation setting. So I discovered that I liked healthcare, and I wanted to be a social worker in healthcare, or at least I thought so. However, when I arrived at Moss Rehabilitation Hospital, I met a team of people. And in that team was a psychologist his name was Dr. Richard Heath. And Richard was extraordinary. He was a hands-on person and very knowledgeable. And I watched him and I saw the work that he did. And I looked at what I was doing and I thought, I'm not on the path. I need to pursue becoming a psychologist. So perhaps 6 months into the job, I discovered that I wanted to be a psychologist. And so I immediately applied to 2 graduate schools, Rutgers University, which was a PsyD program that had just opened up, and then the Ohio State University, which was a traditional PhD program. Of course, thinking about the decision then, OSU was my choice because they offered CBT training for graduate students, and they were big on CBT. And of course, CBT was appealing to me because it was scientifically focused. So I decided to move in that direction and got accepted at both universities, and I accepted the Ohio State University invitation. Entered the Ohio State University, and then I trained at the West Haven VA for internship. And from that internship, my first job was at Gaylord Rehabilitation Hospital in Wallingford, Connecticut, working alongside Stephen Sarfati. And guess who my boss was at the time? Dr. Jack Plummer, the cowboy.
Wow.
From Nebraska. So here we are in the field of psychology.
Interesting story. Wow. And now, I'm making the connections. So you are the founder of the EDTF at CPA, and this year is the 20th anniversary. Would you please tell us what motivated you to initiate such a valuable activity?
Well, the journey started in the year 2000 when Dan Abrahamson, who was at the time CPA's Director of Professional Affairs, and he was also chair at APA's Committee of State Leaders. Dan asked me, would I be the diversity delegate from Connecticut? And what an honor that was to be asked to be a diversity delegate, to be able to go to the big APA in Washington, DC. And this was a big state leadership conference that had been ongoing. However, this was the first year ever that they were doing a diversity initiative. And they invited 13 states to participate, Connecticut being one. And I was one of the first of 13 to commit to going to APA's State Leadership Conference. So that was indeed an honor, and I was very pleased that I was asked to do that. So from SLC, which is State Leadership Conference, and again, everyone knows that APA has so many acronyms.
Right.
So this springboarded me into returning to Connecticut and forming EDTF, the Ethnic Diversity Task Force of the Connecticut Psychological Association, in the year 2001. And I named it EDTF because I primarily wanted it to be a task force and not a committee. I wanted it to be a community-based effort and initiative by CPA and not just a in-house committee. So it was I was very strategic in what I was doing to set it up as a task force opposed to a committee. And I wanted community leaders to participate in the task force with a three-pronged approach. First, mentoring students and providing networks for students of color, realizing that the dropout rate for graduate students of color was quite high. And I was very concerned about it. I saw it and witnessed this in my own program when an African-American male was accepted at The Ohio State University the same time I was, and he never graduated. I was devastated by that. And I understood that the commitment to mentoring students of color was a daunting task, but it needed to happen. Also, another part of it was to provide training opportunities for students of color, because I had had an excellent training at the West Haven VA, and I wanted other students to be able to take advantage of great internship training. Community education, I believe, was extremely important. And so that was the third prong of EDTF, to go out to organizations, schools, and churches and focus on mental illness, teaching the community about mental illness. And that's when Mind Styles, the hairstylist and barber initiative, was formed through EDTF. And it was the year 2003 that EDTF got the first APA Division 31 Diversity Programs Award. And that was the first ever to be awarded. So I'm very grateful for that. So in summary, EDTF was formed 2001, and it is a group of ethnically and culturally diverse professionals and college students who promote greater mental health access and advocate for culturally competent psychological services in communities of color. And that is our mission.
Wow, thank you. That's impressive. I personally have seen people who have been mentored by you in the past, and their knowledge is just spectacular. Congratulations on all your efforts. So,
thank you.
You're welcome. As a psychologist of color, what kind of hurdles and challenges have you faced to maintain and sustain the EDTF for 20 years?
Well, as we look at the stigma of mental illness, it still prevails in communities of color in a very big way. And so I knew that it was going to be a daunting task to be able to educate people about mental illness in my communities. So one of the biggest challenges was to get people on the task force that were willing to spread the word about mental illness in a way that the people in the community would be receptive. And so recruiting people to be members of EDTF who were willing to be educated themselves and then educate others, and allow EDTF to come into churches, organizations, and schools was a primary goal and a big hurdle. So that the mistrust and the perception that psychologists represent the system is part of the difficulty in communities of color. Trust is essential before education can occur. And I learned that And I still am challenged by that. So that was a big hurdle. Getting other psychologists of color to partner with me and to join me in this initiative was also a daunting task, and it continues to be. Earlier on, getting board members aboard and getting CPA educated about students of color, the issues that they face, the needs of students of color, high school, graduate and undergraduate. So there was an education of not only the community, but of CPA and the board. And I sat on an extraordinary, with an extraordinary group of people on my board at the time. And they were receptive, embraced me, and supported me in this initiative. So becoming, probably of all of everything that I've said, the biggest challenge for me was becoming the first person of color as CPA president, the responsibility of the organization of CPA, the responsibility of EDTF that I had taken on, and managing a full-time private practice, as well as juggling as a parent and a wife. My husband was the biggest cheerleader of all. He helped support me. And in fact, he was the one that convinced me to go ahead and run for president of CPA. So I am definitely pleased with that decision. And even though the challenges were ongoing, the fact is that I had a lot of support.
Excellent. Wow. Wow. So, you know, it's very much important that all of us at CPA and our community continue your path. What do you see as the future of diversity, equity, and inclusion at the CPA?
I am so excited about where CPA is going. I look at the path that is being, the way that's being paved by yourself and others with the Social Justice Committee. And I am extremely excited. In working with Dr. Ann Clee, the former CPA president, who was so supportive of EDTF and really excited about advancing diversity, she really helped to lay some steps out that would provide growth and development. And from there, Jennifer has picked up the mantle. Jennifer Doran, our present president. And wow, she has really embraced EDTF and the social justice movement that has taken place at CPA. And I'm delighted to see that type of leadership that prevails. And of course, Dr. Wendy Simmons, who is chair of the Diversity Committee, is committed to EDI. EDTF is left in very capable hands with Dr. Haney, Angela Haney, chair of EDTF, along with Dr. Mickey Lasher, who has been with me for many years. And they remain committed to keep EDI alive and well. So as we think of diversity, diversity alone does not satisfy the need for equity and inclusion of people of color. All of us must strive for systemic equity and inclusion at every level, which means that if we talk about systemic racism, if we talk about systematic changes, it has to be from top to bottom and from bottom to top. And I believe we're headed in that direction in a very positive way at CPA.
Wow, wow. Dr. Owens-Lane, this story of your life and the goals you have set up for all of us is just inspiring. And, you have been the first person of color as a CPA president. You founded EDTF. And also, you mentioned that trust is essential before the education occur, and you created this trust among the community. Definitely, it was challenging work, but you did it. And also, thank you for sharing with us about the importance of the systemic equity and systemic inclusion. It was so nice having you with us. Thank you for accepting our invitation, and we'll look forward to working with you ongoingly.
Well, can I just give a shout out of thank you to some folks that I feel have been instrumental in everything that I've done. First of all, I am so pleased to have been founder and former leader of EDTF and surrounded by a village of CPA and the communities of color. That has been extraordinary. But the journey again took place with Dr. Dan Abrahamson, and then CPA members like Dr. John Meem and Stephen Moore, even Dr. Arthur Evans, our at the time was active at Demas and leading at Demas. He was a part of EDTF, and he is now the APA CEO. As we look at Maisa Akbar, who has been a EDTF member and the APA CDO at present. And then there were others who were pioneers with myself, like Dr. Gretchen Chase Vaughn, Ray Gunter, and graduate students like Michael Farah, Nadi Pataramania, and then Gifty Amadou. Those are students who came aboard and really poured into EDTF, and I am very grateful. Thank you, Dr. Rezvan, for all that you do and your leadership and the social justice movement at CPA. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for that inclusion, that's leadership. It was so nice having you with us, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.